I'm here with Grady Sports analysts Jack Little and Erin Kirby, who were in Sacramento covering the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 for the Women's NCAA tournament. This was a collaboration between the Carmichael Sports Media Institute and USA Today. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a really great experience.
Yeah, we really appreciate you having us on.
Let's start with the experience itself. You were right there, close to the action all week long. What was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. We were like 3 rows up in the media section and got to be so close to the games. Some good games as well. We got a buzzer beater in Duke LSU, which was fantastic. We got so much access. We got to go into the locker rooms, have these personal experiences with players. Truly one of a kind.
And as part of the media, what does a typical day look like during a weekend like this?
Yeah, I gotta say, Hunter, a typical day doesn't necessarily exist for the media. We are always on the go and we are always changing our plans. But some consistencies include whether it's pressers with coaches or locker room availabilities, which are really valuable because you're getting close and one-on-one with some of the top WNBA draft prospects, which is really incredible. We go into each day with storylines in mind. Obviously, those can change. We don't necessarily have to stick with the same story, but we base it on what we get with our interviews, and whatever happens, happens. During the game, we're typically uploading the USA Today blog posts or continuing to write the stories that we have been working on all day. I will say it's a lot of work, but it is definitely worth it.
Now let's take a step back to the start of the tournament. You have both Georgia's men's and women's teams. They had strong regular seasons, but they were knocked out in the first round. What do you think happened there?
Yeah, the men got matched up with St. Louis. It was a really tough matchup. St. Louis was probably underseeded, had a rough end of the season. They've got Robbie Avila or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, everybody's favorite player after that win. So just really a tough matchup for UGA. They didn't hit their shots. And then on the women's side, they played against Virginia. And Virginia was kind of the team of destiny. They went to the Sweet 16 out of the first 4, the first to ever do that in the women's tournament. And, it was just really a close game. It went to overtime and a tough result for Coach Abe.
Yeah, the women's game was a nail-biter against Virginia. Ultimately, Georgia could not really pull it off. And the men's, for me, it really came down to who wanted to be there more. They just struggled to put up shots. They didn't have that same energy. So I think that's what it came down to.
Fast forward to now, and the women's Final Four is set. You have UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas, all of the 1 seeds. The same programs were in last year's Final Four, but the matchups were flipped. Erin, who wins this between South Carolina and UConn?
I got to give it to them, and I hate to sound repetitive, but I got to go with UConn. They're not only leading with the nation's shooting record, but they have an incredible defense, and they are able to force turnovers. And South Carolina this year has been really good at taking care of the ball. So I think the ability for UConn to test that is really what this game is going to come down to.
And on the other side, you have Texas and UCLA, who were both knocked out in last year's Final Four. Jack, who advances?
Yeah, luckily for both of these teams, one of them will be going to the national championship game. These are 2 teams that matched up earlier this season, a game that Texas won by 20+. And in that game, Lauren Betts actually got hurt in the middle of it. But what people don't look at with that game is that Texas was already up 20 points when Betts went down with the arm injury. So, I expect Texas to do more of the same and knock off UCLA and head to the national championship game.
And when it's all said and done, who's cutting down the nets, both for the men's and the women's?
Honestly, for the men's, I got to go with Arizona. And for the women's, again, UConn's going to take the cake for me, both for similar reasons. Their offenses are really strong throughout, and both teams have incredible depth. And that is what I think makes them stand out. You see this in the NBA and the WNBA. A Big 3 team isn't necessarily going to cut it anymore. You have to have depth on all ends of the court. And I think these teams really have it. And Arizona and UConn have the strength to take home that trophy.
Yeah, I look at the men's side and I see Arizona. That's who I took before the tournament started. Arizona has been the best team in the country all year long. They face up against Michigan, who I think is the second best team. That is the national championship game, in my opinion. I think that Saturday game will decide who is winning and who is going to cut down the net. So Michigan has incredible size. You look at Ade Mara, you look at Yaxel Lendeborg. Arizona has the athletes to deal with that size, and they have the guard play with Braden Burries that can knock off Michigan. Their injury to LJ Kaysen for the Wolverines, it's going to be a key factor. On the women's side, I like Texas. Texas has been dominant in this tournament. They've been dominant all season long. They're battle-tested. UConn has not been battle-tested the way that Texas has. So I like Vic Schaefer and the Longhorns to cut down the nets.
Well, Jack, I'm going to go against you. Myself, I'm taking UConn for both the men's and the women's. Women's team is undefeated, and the men's team, they have all the momentum behind them right now. Jack and Erin, thank you so much for your time. Check out our socials for more coverage. Back to you at the anchor desk.